Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let me get this. I'll do my mic. All right, everybody. Portland, we're here. And I just want to thank everybody for making it out. You know, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with my work, but those of you that may not be as familiar, I'm Julian Brown. I'm 21 years old. I'm from Georgia, flew in from Atlanta, and I have invented a microwave pyrolysis reactor. And in human language, it's a machine that uses microwaves to turn plastic waste into fuel. And what I'm holding here is plastic diesel. And this is diesel I have created from plastic waste, from mixed, unsorted, contaminated, dirty plastic waste. I put this into my machine and it came out as diesel. And I sent this diesel, the same batch that you're seeing here, to a lab in Vancouver, Washington, ASAC Labs. And just yesterday, I got the paperwork confirming that this diesel is actually even cleaner and burns cleaner with less smoke than diesel from the pump. Woo! So this is truly a historical moment because now we're at a point where it's not a matter of, oh, this has potential to change the world. This will change the world because if you're able to take a waste product, right, and make fuel out of it that's superior to fuel from the pump, cleaner than fuel from the pump, it's cheaper, you don't have to go to war for it, you don't have to drill for it, it's a no-brainer. And on top of that, I'm currently undergoing a lot of upgrades with my machine to get my machine to operate off of solar. So my machine uses microwaves operate off of electricity, right? And so with solar panels, my machine can operate and create a gallon of diesel for less than $1 a gallon from plastic waste. So what do you think about that, Portland? And you know, today I have to, of course, not just show you this diesel, but we gotta use the diesel. So huge thank you to Travis. Behind you there is a 1994 diesel Pajero, and we're gonna be running that off of my plastic diesel. 100% plastic diesel will be running this today. That will be the main event for the world to see. This will be history because though I have run a few engines in the past off of this diesel, I've never run a Mitsubishi engine. So this will be the first time ever. We've only done Ford engines, and this will be the first time ever we ran anything in Oregon. So I'm grateful to be here. I want to thank Jesse with the Apothecary Brothers, as well as his brother Sean. They dedicate this venue space, so let's give a round of applause to them. And they're running the concession stand back there with some lemonade, and inside the shop they have some other great things, a cafe, some really good, all types of great natural things in there. So guys should check them out. And I myself, I have my Jab Aroma, my natural deodorant products over here. But what we're going to really get into now is a Q&A, because I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from Portland. I want to know any questions you guys may have. You know, I want to answer it because, you know, I do a lot online, but I think this is really important here. You know, to be able to look each other in the eyes and just feel the energy here as I answer your questions, and we get a deeper understanding all together and grow and learn all together. You know, what plastic is, how this machine works, and how this is going to eventually change the world. So we're going to have a mic going around. So yeah, who's first? Who got a question? Wait, yeah.
Check. Oh, no. All right. So other than the explosion, what were some of the challenges that you ran into and how'd you get through?
Yeah. So I'll break that down because not everybody knows I blew myself up last year. So last year, in the refinement step of fuel, I had an accident and I ended up blowing myself up. I got second-degree burns on my feet here, and you can see on this leg I have some discoloration. It kind of looks like vitiligo. So I had to get burn surgery. But so you said, what other challenges have I ran into outside of that explosion? So really, the biggest challenge I've always ran into has been doing this machine at the scale I am with limited funding. Anything petroleum is very expensive. A single part costs $20,000, right? And I do this, I'm completely crowdfunded. I do have a $100,000 grant from the 776 Foundation, which is owned by Alexis Ohanian. He's the co-founder of Reddit, husband of Serena Williams. And when I got the $100,000, that's when I learned, like, this stuff is expensive. Because, like, my budget went up, but I'm like, dude, I'm still, like, sometimes, like, I just had to raise $20,000 to get the solar set up. Because, like, even with the grant, the machine itself is taking so much. So it's always been funding, and that's a part of it's almost by design. Because, listen, what got me into this work is when I learned the ocean plastic problem is as bad as it is, I used to think, okay, well, I'm recycling. I'll put my plastic in a recycle bin, right? How many of you here have a recycle bin? Yeah, well, almost everybody. We're in Oregon, baby. But look, let me tell you this. I don't mean to discourage you in your efforts. I'm not telling you to stop recycling. But less than 5% of plastic is recycled when you put it in that recycle bin. If you put 100 bottles in that recycle bin, you might be lucky if even one gets recycled. The reason why is because of how the recycling that we use now works. So how it works now at the fundamental level is they're trying to take one plastic and turn it into a new plastic. So they're trying to take one water bottle and make a new water bottle out of it. That's limiting, because if you have mixed plastic, for example, on your water bottle, the plastic that makes up the top, the plastic that makes the bottle, and the plastic that makes the label, those are 3 different types of plastics. If they're mixed together, it's hard for them to recycle. And there's glue. There's glue around to put the label on. They don't like to recycle anything that's mixed, right? Because then it's hard to separate it out. Because how can you make a fresh new water bottle out of a water bottle that has contamination in it, right? If it has dirt in it, if it had juice in it, oil in it, right? They don't even touch it. They just send it off. They used to send it all to China, now they're sending it to Taiwan, Zambia, Ghana, a ton of places that are suffering really hard from plastic waste. So when I heard that, this recycling scam, that made me angry. I said, okay, I want to do something. I want to take the power and be the one to recycle, since they're clearly not doing it, right? And so that's exactly what I did. I started to do research, I figured out, and I'll ask you guys, how many of you before me knew what plastic is made of? By a raise of hands. As you see, most people don't know. But how many of you, by a raise of hands, know what paper is made of? Almost everybody. See, so plastic, one of the most abundant things we have in the world, half of us don't even know that it's made of petroleum, because they don't teach us that. If you learn it's made of petroleum and you learn it can be turned back into petroleum, then the whole perspective of what you see plastic as completely changes. So, kind of going back to your original question, I don't want to just accept any type of funding, because I don't want to ever get to the point where I'm like this big evil company just lying. If I accept the wrong type of funding too early, I'll have people who join my company that just only care about money. I started this because I want to get rid of plastic waste. Just like I told you guys in the beginning, this was made from the plastic that they do not recycle. This was made from plastic with dirt in it, plastic that was mixed with everything like plastic on earth, and yet it passed the diesel certification, right? That's powerful, because they couldn't do this before. This is why they don't recycle, because they couldn't make a product that's usable on the back end of a whole bunch of mixed plastic, a conglomerate that comes together. So that's why funding has always been my issue, because I don't want to just immediately jump into an investor pool or go public and I have people controlling my company and telling me where my company should stand, because I started this for a reason, and that mission is going to stay true the whole time through. Next question.
Okay, so my question was, you made plastic diesel out of the plastic. What's stopping you from making like a plastoline, like a regular gasoline, that you can run in any other engine aside from just a diesel?
Great question. I already make plastoline. So from my process, I make gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and natural gas and carbon, all from plastic waste. Now, the reason why I have diesel here is because, for one, diesel was all I had left. I've been doing a ton of maintenance on my machine, so I made this diesel last year, actually, in December. I haven't ran my machine pretty much since 2025. I've been doing so much work on it. But also, I ship this here. You can ship diesel. You can't really ship like this much gasoline. You know, it's much more explosive. But yeah, so that answers your question. Yep.
How much plastic does it take to make a gallon of diesel?
So when the plastic comes out of my machine, it comes out almost like crude oil. Out of that crude oil, 50% of it will be diesel. So for a gallon of diesel, it's going to take 20 pounds, right? Now, to make a gallon of the crude oil, it's 10 pounds per gallon. You're going to get about half diesel, about 25% gasoline, and then 25% in the jet fuel, and then kind of like some waxes as well. Every piece of plastic will become something. It will not stay plastic. And actually, that brings me to another point. In this process, so some people ask, and it's a decent question. They're like, okay, you have your fuel made from plastic, but if you burn this, won't there be microplastics in there, right? Well, that's a decent question, but no. There won't be. There's zero microplastics in here. The lab proved that, but I'll tell you why. It's because the process in which we take plastic and turn it into this fuel is the process of pyrolysis. That's when you put plastic into an airtight chamber with no oxygen, no air. A fire needs oxygen and air to form, right? We don't have any of that in there, so a fire cannot form when you heat up the plastic. And so when you heat it up in this environment with no air, instead of it catching on fire and burning, it actually breaks it down to what it was made of. And as we all know, what is plastic made of? Petroleum. So it returns it into petroleum. So it's a permanent chemical change. This is not plastic anymore. This is hydrocarbons, right? It's a hydrocarbon blend, but it's no longer plastic. And my lab charts show that this specific hydrocarbon blend is pretty much diesel. Like it lines up how hot to pass the paper around and the graph and all that so you guys can see. But yeah. Next question.
Hi. This is sort of a long-term vision question because I think all of us here have a lot of faith in the technology. That's why we're all here, and we're all really excited to see it enter the world at scale. My question for you is, do you have an idea right now of the scale at which something like this plastic diesel reactor will be used? Is this something you expect at like a backyard level, that someone's going to distill their own plastic, maybe more like a utility level in combination with like waste services? Have you thought about that yet?
Great question. Great question there. So something I noticed, first of all, I'm not the inventor of putting plastic in the food. It's been studied, it's been known. I am an inventor of the world's first solar-powered continuous microwave pyrolysis reactor. I know it's a word salad, but that's a very specific niche. Nonetheless, something I noticed, right? So think about what I just said. Turning plastic into fuel has been around since like the 1970s, yet we have the ocean plastic problem. So it clearly isn't being done right. Because if it was being done right, all of us would be running our fuel, our cars off of this stuff, and we wouldn't have ocean plastic. The reason why it hasn't been adopted right is because every company that does it tries to go too big with it. So you ask what scale I want to do it at. I want to keep this at a decentralized scale. I don't want to have a singular humongous machine you have to ship in plastic all around the world. I want community level machines, right? So imagine this little block of the city here, right, has its own machine, right? And every little quadrant has its own machine. If we can do it like that, that's stopping plastic waste at the source. Most plastic that ends up in the ocean comes from rivers because little communities end up putting it in the river. They have nothing else to do with it. The river takes it to the ocean. So if we try to always just deal with trying to centralize everything and make a humongous $300 million machine, first of all, that's so hard to raise money for. It's so hard to do maintenance on. It takes so long to build. You need so much land to maintain it, to get it started. It takes so much permitting. But then on top of that, there's some places that you can't, they're too remote to get plastic shipped to and from, right? So we need community level machines. That's what I think the true solution is going to be. Have these machines at a small, decentralized scale in every single city and country on this earth. Next question. So he'll give you the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in reference to the microplastics, there was actually a study done by Science Daily saying that when you boil water, it actually completely evaporates all microplastics. So is that what, like the combustion process, is that why there's no microplastic bindings in your, like that whole process? Is the combustion process, the heating process, is that what completely cancels out the microplastics in your bindings?
So combustion is when you have something burn in the presence of oxygen. My machine has zero combustion until you get to the point where you have your fuel and you put it in the engine and the engine burns it. There's no oxygen in my machine. So this fuel that comes out of the machine is already completely free of microplastics before it's ever even burned, right? And that's because when the plastic is put in the machine and it's heated up without oxygen, it breaks the plastic down to its basic chemical constituents. So it returns it to petroleum. And petroleum is not microplastics, right? So that's how that works.
So, the question I had, in industries like this, there's a lot of regulation, permitting, things of that nature that are required. As you might know, on the fly under the radar for the most part, but especially as you mentioned, a more decentralized, communal approach, which I do respect. How would you and eventually those communities navigate regulation hurdles, safety, permitting, etc.?
Great question. And that's one of the things I kind of worry about, to be honest, especially in America, because so much of our permitting and stuff is based on politics. It's not even based on like what's right or wrong. It's just based on politics. And so it's sometimes tough to be able to, like, let's say, so for example, this diesel is literally proven by science to be cleaner than diesel from the pump. But I couldn't sell this at the pump because the EPA is going to have an issue with it, with classifying it. They don't know what they don't call it diesel. They consider it like some type of renewable synthetic diesel. But until it goes through their program, even though we know this is cleaner, to them they think this is dirty. To them they think this is worse. And so you can't just sell, you can't just burn it, right? And so things get delayed. My solution is this. I of course would love to start in America, because I'm here, I understand my business is here, I understand the country. But if worse comes to worse, I can't start in America because I get kind of held up with the whole permitting, side of things. I'm completely open to taking this to another country, especially because there's some countries that need it even more than America. Because we ship a lot of our waste to, especially island nations like Thailand and stuff. Like, it makes no sense. So anyway, those places don't have as strict of regulations, and the hope would be, okay, if it came down to that, we could show it works and it's safe in these other countries, and it's going to get adopted by everybody. Because it's just going to be logic. You see, we're turning plastic into fuel. This community is making no plastic waste. They're self-sustaining with their own fuel. Everyone's going to want it once they know it's legit, right? And then it'll be easy to I guess lobby it, you could say, or just get, all the regulations to be pushed quickly when everybody sees and knows this is the real deal and this works. Next question.
So one of the problems that plagues modern diesel manufacturers is post-combustion process with the AdBlue systems and the NOx emissions. Have you done any tailpipe testing post-combustion with your product yet?
No, I have not done any tailpipe emission testing, and I'd love to do that. I would absolutely love to. What we do know is that my fuel burns with less carbon. My fuel burns cleaner. So my diesel has a higher cetane index. And so the engine works with it much better. This was proven in the lab test. And so even though we haven't done the tailpipe testing, we can hypothesize it's going to be less carbon, so less carbon buildup, better for your engine, better emissions, better for the longevity of your engine, right? Just because of how it burns better. So we'll get that done as soon as I get the lab that can do that for me. And yeah, that'll be great to see too. Great question. Next.
Hi, I wanted to know is it like a good source for octane when you do start making gasoline? I want to know how high of a source of octane it would be.
Great question. So I have yet to have an octane test done from a lab on my gasoline. Now last month I was in Houston, Texas, and a guy who builds race cars he came and donated his truck to let me run off my plastoline. It was the first ever truck to run off of my plastoline, which is my gasoline alternative. It's not the same as this, it's gold. But anyway, he knows race cars, so he knows what race fuel is. He knows what a high octane sounds like in an engine. We put my fuel in his truck engine, and he said it sounded like it had an octane of 100. And that will line up. Because diesel doesn't exactly have the same type of like octane range as gasoline, but diesel does have what we call the cetane index, which is kind of like the same thing. And the lab has proven that my diesel has a higher cetane than regular diesel, right? A higher flash point. So, and as we saw from the guy in Houston, the video in Houston where we ran the truck, he said that my gasoline had a really high octane. So we could guess with educated guess that yes, it has a very high octane. But we're waiting to get that official test done. Thank you. Next question.
Hey, so when you're trying to bring this, as you were talking about, trying to bring it to scale and, you know, bring out a bunch of different machines to different spots in the city, and that's how you want to do it, how are you getting the recycling? Because I know Waste Management's not going to sell it to you. You know what I mean? Well, yeah. Like, they'll sell it to you, but they're going to charge you an arm and a leg because they know what you're doing.
So that's the easiest part.
Okay.
In all the years I've done this, I've never had an issue with getting plastic. You know, if anything, because there's so many companies, I get companies that email me now that are too much plastic for me. They're like film companies. They are, you know, first of all, we all know how light plastic is, right? Like a single plastic bag, right? Imagine how much plastic is like in a ton. It's like 2,000 pounds of plastic bags. Imagine how much that is. I have companies who reach out to me, they're film companies, they have to pay these really high shipping fees at landfills. They're saying, we would love to give you a ton a day of this plastic film for free. And there you go. Like, so that's never the issue because it's a waste product. People want to get rid of it. And what I love to do one day, especially if a machine is operating off of solar and making this stuff for less than $1 a gallon, I love to make it to where people can bring plastic and get paid for it. You know, like the old system where you could bring glass bottles, metal cans, get paid a few cents. If you do that,
across the street from the Green Drop Oil near Lucky Lab.
Dollars floating in the ocean, right? This is plastic. What's the difference? It's just we don't know.
Southeast 9th and Madison.
Now we know, right? Now we see. And so that's the goal. I want it to literally be the next gold rush. I want the ocean, I want the oceans to be like, everybody's rushing out there to get as much plastic as they can because it's money, right? Because it is. Next question? You have one over here, yeah. Thank you.
Back to the explosion, with sort of stuff like that and just with general operations of your machine, what are the carcinogen concerns with, like, regards to benzene, stuff like that, getting into the environment?
Great question. So my machine itself is a completely closed system. So the machine itself has zero leaks, zero emissions. So like, for example, when I was saying we could have a machine on a community level, it's because when the machine is on, there's literally not any smoke that comes from it. There's no smell that comes from it. Everything is contained in that system. The only time you will have an emission is when you get the fuel out and you burn the fuel. And so far what we've seen from the test, well, we know with the diesel is, we've seen the high end of it and the low end of the diesel, the chemical makeup, and there's nothing carcinogenic in there. That's like the level of benzene, for example, right? And so we're waiting on the plastoline results to come back too. We'll see how those look. But either way, the machine itself, like getting rid of the plastic and turning it into fuel, is a completely closed and clean system that has no environmental risk. And so much so, a few months ago, there was this page of guys that they don't like my work. They mass reported me to the EPA. And they told the EPA, hey, shut him down. He's burning tons of plastic. As we all know, am I burning plastic? It's a different process. It's pyrolysis, no oxygen. So anyway, the EPA got in contact with me and like, hey, what's up? What are you doing? And I said, well, if you want to know what I'm doing, I've been posting on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere for years, the whole process. Go watch my videos. Go see the machine has no black smoke. These people saying I'm burning plastic, they're making stuff up. EPA checked me out. They came back to me and they said, you're good. You're doing your work. That's it. So, like I said, the machine itself, closed process, safe for the environment, everything is controlled. It's not like an incinerator where it's just plumes of smoke going up. So great question. Next question.
I was wondering, like, you said you're like converting it back into petroleum. Is there like what are the limitations you have on like petroleum products you can make other than just like fuel and all that jazz?
Great question. So if I really wanted to, this oil that comes out is the perfect building block for making new plastic. This plastic comes from petroleum. We're turning it back to petroleum. You can make new plastic out of this. You can make petroleum jelly out of this. Anything we make out of petroleum, this is the chemical feedstock. So it's not limited to just fuel. The reason I like fuel the most is because we have no issue with making plastic. We make too much. We need to use less. I want to get rid of it. You know, like when they have the ocean cleanup, they're getting all this ocean plastic. What are they doing with it? Sometimes they're making little sunglasses. Okay, people are going to wear them a few times, throw them away. Right? I don't think we need to make plastic. I think we need to truly destroy it. And to burn plastic in itself, it's uncontrolled. Emissions are horrible, all types of crazy emissions. But you can turn it into fuel and really, really control this fuel. So even if this test came back for this fuel saying it was bad and needed to be cleaned, you can clean fuel pretty easy. And then you can put it in. That's what they do to diesel and gasoline anyway. That's why we have so many additives in it, right? So you can control burning fuel way better than you can control burning plastic. And you make it into fuel and then you burn this fuel in an engine, and we're going to use engines anyway. You're truly getting rid of it. It's not making microplastics. You know, it's not going to continue to be a burden on humans, the environment, any animal. It's gone. It's just CO2, water vapor after it goes through the catalytic converter. And those things are way less harmful for us than microplastics, of course. I'm not sure who exactly was next. Yeah, okay.
What's the net energy conversion on your process?
Yeah, great question. So my current machine, I've been doing so many upgrades, I never got it complete to where I did an energy study on it. However, my past machine, Mark IV, my fourth prototype, I did do an energy conversion study, and I was able to put in 25 kilowatts of electricity, which is about like, it's a little bit more than half the amount of electricity a house will consume a day. Well, it depends on the size of the house. But the average house, like a small house, will consume 30 kilowatt hours. So let's just say to power a house for a day, I put that much into the machine of electrical watts, right? And then on the back end, between all of the products combined, the natural gas, the diesel, gasoline, and the carbon, because carbon is coal, it can be burned as well. When you combined all those together, that was a sum of 49 kilowatt hours of energy. So plastic is so energy dense that these products that come out, you know, in the right machine and right environment could literally power the machine, right? But that takes a very efficient machine. Probably not going to be a handmade machine like what I've been doing to make that happen. But it's a good energy conversion. And when you include solar, it's even better because you don't even have to worry about how much energy it takes now. It's sunlight, right? So, yeah. Next.
What size is the actual unit going to be, and what about the sound? How much sound it produces?
So the size of the unit I have now is it's about like the size of a minivan, really. It's 10 foot long, 3 foot wide. It's a pretty small footprint of the machine, and since it uses microwaves and operates off of electricity, when you turn it on, you wouldn't even know it's on. It's completely silent. You know, before I got my solar panels, I was running a generator to power the machine. That was the only noise, but the machine is completely quiet. And that's why, once again, I always envision it going in communities because it's not going to make any type of smell or smoke or sound. It's you know, very respectful to the environment around me. I designed it that way. And on top of that, using microwaves helps as well because microwaves are not a fire risk. Because the only source of heat in the machine is inside the machine, versus if we were heating it from the outside, we're using a fire to heat up the machine. Now, if that fire could spread somehow, you have fire risk. So it's a very safe process outside of the fact that, of course, super high voltages that could kill you, you know, on contact, and of course you're making explosive fuels. But other than that, it's pretty safe. Next question.
I was wondering if you've been peer reviewed or if you have any specific industry experts that have vouched for you so far?
So I don't know exactly to what degrees some may classify peer review or vouching. I have been reached out to by many of the biggest pyrolysis companies in the world. and they've told me, good work. What you're doing is working. You're on the right path. And of course, now I have this lab. I've had 2 labs actually, 2 independent labs. One in Vancouver, Washington, why I'm here. The other in Houston, Texas. That both said that my diesel fuel is some of the cleanest fuel they've ever ran through their machines. So that's pretty good. Next question? Oh yeah. Yeah, sure. Ready? So I've had 2 independent labs, one in Vancouver, Washington, and one in Houston, Texas, that have both said that my plastic diesel I make from plastic waste is some of the cleanest diesel that they've ever seen come through their labs. All right, next question.
So I was curious about another thing. You said that you've been making videos for a few years now.
Yeah.
You said that you're 21 years old. I was curious, if you have a degree in any chemistry, or if you went to school for any of this, or if you just is completely self-taught. How did you figure out how to do all of this? Because you say also that there are a lot of other really big pyrolysis companies, and what makes you stand out from them?
So I am completely self-taught. I went to school as a welder. While I learned welding in high school, senior year, I used that trade to help me build the reactor. But all the chemical engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, all of that, microwave, radio engineering, all of that, completely self-taught. Reading tons of research papers, doing research online. We live in the age of information. The internet is so powerful. It's just that most of us don't apply how powerful it is. But the truth is, anything you need to know is right there, right? I was using Google. When I was doing research to build my machine, there wasn't even AI, right? It was just Google. So imagine now, you talk with AI for a few hours and find out, anything, really. And so if you are aware of the power that is at our disposal as a human race, as humanity, in this day and age of the internet, there's no limits. The only limit is your own mind, right? So I went in there saying, I want to figure out how to get rid of plastic waste, and I'm going to make it work. So I didn't limit my mind at all on what that could look like, because I didn't know what plastic was made of either. And when I saw the first article saying plastic could be turned to gasoline, I was like, huh? But I wasn't like, that's impossible. I was just kind of intrigued, interested. And then when I figured out it could be done, the first thing I said to myself was, how can I do it, right? And why isn't it being done the way it needs to be? So I kind of played devil's advocate. When I started to ask why, I started to be like, okay, so this is obviously a process, but why isn't it done? Why do we have ocean plastics? Why aren't they doing it the right way? And one of the big things I noticed was a lack of education. Because most people, look, I have talked to people who have gone to school in university for chemistry, and I've asked them, did your class go over plastic pyrolysis? They're like, no, we just went over pyrolysis for a day. I'm like, huh? Interesting. So something that could be pivotal in solving the biggest problem we have is barely even taught to the people that are in school for it, right? That's why I started sharing it online. My first 2 years I was completely offline, but I decided people deserve to know that not only something can be done, but somebody is doing something about this problem. Because I kind of fell into a place of hopelessness for a little bit when I realized we have this ocean problem, microplastics, and they're not even trying to recycle. I'm like, we're gonna end up like Wall-E, what are we gonna do? But I realized, wait a minute, we're in the age of the internet. I can look up anything, find anything myself, and I have the drive to make it happen. And we have social media too. This is beautiful that this is even here, because all of you are here right now, and I'm all the way from Georgia, 3,000 miles away, right? But we're all here right now for the same cause, and it's just so beautiful. And we're in that age now. We have to take advantage of that, right? Because there was no other time in human history where you could do something like this, where you could be a single independent person and bring together people, build something like this. But now we're in that age where we can, if we use the tools to our advantage. So yes, I am completely self-taught. Next. Who's down there?
So I guess I have more like a somewhat of a philosophical question. I guess let's say that this alternative fuel, for lack of a better term, eventually within the next 5 to 10 years does commonly get implemented throughout smaller towns, cities, and just nationally and globally, what do you see the best outcome if this like new form of fuel, or not necessarily new, but like just being able to rechannel like harmful like products into like positive products essentially as fuel? Where do you see the best case scenario of a world and society 5 to 10 years from now? What in your mind, from your experience, would be the worst case scenario 5, 10 years from now if we don't implement it sooner?
So I think we're already kind of experiencing the worst case scenario because we're getting the microplastics. And that's the real issue, because these microplastics we're seeing now have been building up since the first year plastic came out, right? And so, you know, if we don't implement this now, I mean, the ocean is already insane the way how it looks. These other countries, like on the coast of Africa and some of these countries in Asia, are already insane in how much plastic is in the rivers and such, right? It's uninhabitable, right? So I think that if we don't, start to do something, they're already finding microplastics in the air. So it's going to get to the point where you can't even breathe air without, I mean, you already can't be born into the world without microplastics. But you won't even be able to breathe the air without microplastics. And even natural environments will just get completely polluted with this thing you can't even see. So, we have to take the effort now, we're able to quit, because we need to get all the plastic that's in these natural environments out, because that's where all the microplastics are coming from. A lot of the microplastics are in water, because they're in the ocean, you get in the water cycle. Spraying on your lettuce, when they're spraying your lettuce and your crops with water, now it's microplastics. You get fish, salmon, whatever, microplastics. You see, so it's just because it's already getting to the point where it's like almost inescapable. But we're not quite there yet. There's still some hope, but we gotta move quick. Next.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for doing that work that you're doing, because you just took an interest in it, and then you're out here taking the plastic out of the air, streaming all that stuff on the cancer survivors. So like just seeing people like you doing this, and then knowing that like that philosophical question that you just asked might potentially have, we might have the ability to reverse that effect. My question though is just about your biochar. Have you had time yet to test any of that, or you have any concern about that and mitigating any of that?
So one of the last byproducts of the machine, so all that's left of the plastic inside is carbon black. And this carbon black is going to be mixed with other minerals or inorganic materials like metal or whatever. Like for example, if I put wires in my machine, all the wire will be gone, but the copper will be left over, mixed and carbon, because these are all minerals. And that carbon, if it's cleaned up properly, it could be used as biochar, which is a fertilizer. So plastic can literally be turned into a fertilizer in this process. Now, I have yet to do any testing on my carbon, just simply because of prioritization. I'm more focused on getting the machine done than getting that, because the carbon is always made, no matter what, right? And I know that the carbon can be tested at any point. There's tons of uses for it. It can also be used for, it strengthens concrete. They put it in tires, pigments, tons of uses for carbon. Carbon's like the building block of everything. So yeah, to answer your question, I haven't done testing yet, but I do plan to this year. Actually, I have a lab already that reached out to me. So it's just a matter of getting the machine done.
Yeah, first off, I want to say salute to what you're doing. You feel me? It's very inspiring. I know you said that one of your biggest challenges is financial, but online I see you get a lot of pushback from people saying like what you're doing can't be done and things of that nature. Is there any other major challenges you face, or because what you're doing is risky, right? And it will really shake up the industry. Do you feel like there's any other concerns, like as far as the government approaching you in a way to try to impede what you're doing?
Okay. I mean, I guess I'll ask you guys. Do you guys think I'm at risk for the government?
Yes.
Of course.
One of your first videos, you sit there at the desk, hey, the government, I don't care about the government.
Well, I mean, the truth is, by absolute technical definition, we are the government. The government is, the conglomerate of the society, the people, really. But I know, of course, it's supposed to be, right? I know, of course, we live in a pretty corrupt system which is focused on profit and power and control over what's right. There's tons of technologies that would be all over the world if things were for the betterment of humanity. You know, the truth is, I don't know if I'm going to be at risk or if I'm not. You know, I'm still here. You know, I have been in direct contact with the government. Yeah, I've been fine. And, you know, I don't really worry about it that much. The reason why is because here's the thing. You know, I set my mind on this when I was 17 years old. I built my first reactor in high school, right? And so I was always so passionate. I had that fire since then. And so I'm like in the position now where I'm going to do this because I want to do this. I wouldn't feel right to be living life and not doing this. So even if I was told directly, hey, you keep doing this, we're gonna make you disappear, I'll keep doing it. Because, you know, if I'm living in fear, and you know, most of the time we make our reality, we suffer more in our own mind than in reality. What if the government actually would love this? But if I stop myself and shut myself down from the beginning, just because of the idea of fear, never would get there. But even if they don't like it, even if all this is true, guess what? If I'm truly set on saying I'm going to do this, being in fear will only make it less efficient to do. If I know that this is happening no matter what, it makes no sense to do it in fear, right? Only makes sense to do it in fear if you're wishy-washy. But I'm set because I'm not going to live in a world, I know too much now about plastic. Like, I can't turn plastic into this. Clean fuel, clean and pump fuel, and just let it be in the ocean. Throw it away. I can't do that now. I have to stay focused on this. So regardless of whatever the answer is, I'm here, I'm working, and on top of that, I'm open source. So if they want to do anything to me, there's already people building this machine that have emailed me. So it's like, you can't stop it. The ideas out there, ideas are bulletproof. That's it.
I want to piggyback off of that. Day to day, like, how do you overcome your challenges? Obviously, you have proved time and time again that you can do what you set out to do. But day to day, like when it was an original idea and you hadn't done what you set out to do yet, and obviously you had naysayers and challenges, you almost died with an explosion. Like how do you overcome that on a daily basis and continue to prove that you set out to do what you're doing?
So it might be almost like a psychotic mindset, but I kind of almost see it as like for example, when I got blown up, right? You know, I didn't lose my mobility. I was like doing crutches for a little bit. I didn't lose my eyesight or anything, so I was so grateful. But I almost saw it as like, well, since I didn't get injured in a way that crippled me, this is a sign to keep going, you know, to learn from my mistakes. When I got blown up, I wasn't even wearing safety equipment. So whose fault is that? It really was my fault. I didn't even have shoes on, right? So, I mean, I can't get mad at anybody or the process if I'm not even taking the steps to make sure I'm being safe. And you know, when people have things to say, naysayers, you know, I'll say it like this, right? Back in December, I had a lab. I sent my fuel to a lab, right? And this lab, they didn't have the right machines to analyze my fuel. And so the fuel samples didn't come back well. They didn't look good because their machine didn't do it properly. And the guy even told me that before he did the samples. But he's a guy, he's an influencer himself, so he made a video about it, and I was like, that's fine, whatever. But that was back in December, and I knew that analysis wasn't proper, right? But despite that, of course, anybody that didn't like my work or had something to say, they had everything to say. From that point forward, they're like, oh yeah, look, your fuel was horrible, blah, blah, it's all this, all that. For months and months, right? It's May now. I stayed silent. I just let them keep talking. Because guess what? I knew when I get the proper analysis, the proper lab, it's gonna blow it out the water. And I waited until now May. We have the paperwork to prove that my fuel is literally cleaner than fuel from the pump. And so the amount of satisfaction you kind of get when you're like, okay, they can say whatever they want, but I'm the only one building this, and I'm the only one making it really happen, and then I get to show you when the real result is there. You know, it just kind of makes you like kind of motivated to keep going, because it's like, all right, let them talk, but now I have something to prove, right? I have something to show. So yeah, I kind of turn everything into motivation in a way, right? Every single thing, any hardship, because you know it's inevitable with anything you do. You all right over there? Oh, it's just a bike. Okay, I'll make sure everybody's all right. But anything you do, you're gonna have hardship. It's expected, and so it's like you might as well use that hardship, whatever it looks like, and turn it into fuel for what you're doing. Next. more questions after him.
So eventually, your work is gonna outlive you. When you are long gone, what is the message that you want to leave behind to the future generations who are benefiting off of what you're doing?
So really, the number one most important part of everything I do is to inspire. You know, because I can build great things. I have built, you know, a few machines and they're doing great work. But I'm just one person, right? And no matter what, I'm limited as just one person. But if I can inspire even one person, truly inspire them, that person inspires one person. Just keeps going. It's a ping pong. Everybody's inspired collectively. Now the whole world is on a different frequency. The whole world is elevated because we all have been inspired. So that's what I want beyond all else. I want the story to be told. I want the story of self-taught, blew himself up, learned.
And yourself, you just have Joe come and help you with your solar. And yourself, you just have Joe come and help you with your solar. Yeah, how many people would it take to run a community station like that?
Probably 2 people. I mean, one person to shred the plastic, one person just watching the machine. When the machine's on, you're really just sitting there and watching gauges and numbers and pressures. It's pretty automated, you know, and it's this automated and me doing it at my budget, at my scale, handmade. So imagine with the proper sensors, maybe even implementing AI, it could be like, I mean, you want somebody there at all times to make sure if something goes wrong, but it's a very, very simple operation. In fact, I mean, I wouldn't do this, but I'm just saying a kid could operate it, you know? You know what I'm saying? It's pretty simple. It's like a video game in a way. You're just watching things. If something goes, if the pressure starts dropping, turn everything off, you know? And since everything is under a vacuum is the opposite of high pressure, so it's not going to explode. Everything is a closed and sealed system. So I've never had the machine itself blow up on me. It's always been my distillers. Actually, let me explain that real quick. So when I get my plastic crude oil out of the machine, it's a crude oil. It's a mix of the gasoline, diesel, jet fuel. It's all in this one oil liquid, almost like, you know, like Coca-Cola is like water, but it's mixed with all these other things that make it, you know, Coca-Cola. And it has to be separated. And the only way to separate that is through something called distillation, fractional distillation. So that's a separate machine. It's like a mini oil refinery for anybody from the country. It looks all like a whiskey still. So that's the thing that blew up on me. Because when you're distilling fuel, you're like boiling it pretty much in this refiner. So I basically had boiling gasoline right before me, and I let the pressure build up too high, and it all blew out and caught on fire, of course. But yeah, that's what I see it as on a community level. These machines, they can operate. I know I blew myself up, but it doesn't have to be that way. It was a complete user error that even happened, right? Because the machine itself that turns the plastic into the crude oil, it doesn't even have a risk of that. Like I said, I've never had a single machine of mine just blow up like that, you know, on like a fiery explosion. So, yeah. Yeah.
2 more questions.
Yeah, 2 more questions. 2 more. And we had fun, unfortunately.
Yo, I just want to thank you for all the hard work you put in, dude. You're killing it out here. My question is for you is how much would it cost to do something like that for the community? Like, we all want to pitch in, you know, make one ourselves. How much do you think it would run us?
So I want my machines to cost $100,000 because I think that's a price point where, you know, you can get a machine that's going to actually be able to take a community's amount of plastic waste, but it also is at a price point where, like, at least, you know, 100 people can raise $100,000, $1,000 each, right? You know, like it's an actual achievable proposition, right? And that also is great for machines being deployed in countries that aren't as, you know, economically well off. You know, like we could raise 100,000. And I actually want to do, you know, people all the time ask me how can I invest, and I said I'm not going to go public, so I don't have a big company buy out all my ownership and then come and make the company lose its soul. But what I do want to look into is a franchise model. Well, let's say I want to build a machine in Oregon, right? I can say, okay, guys, I want to build a machine in Oregon. Any of you that invest X amount in this $100,000 budget, that's going to correlate to how much percentage of the profits you own. So you own a piece of this machine's profits, but you know, like, it's not like ownership of the entire company. So that way I always make sure it's in the right, you know, in the right vision, right mission. So that's kind of the best idea I've been thinking about in terms of getting this out there in communities everywhere, and then kind of making everybody a part of it. Because on the other hand, I wish it wasn't that way. I would love to be a public company just because so many people believe in me so much, and like I want, especially everybody that's been here from the beginning to have the ability to really be a part of this like this. And then of course, also have the financial benefits of that. But the franchise model kind of is the best of all the worlds, right? And then for a little bit, some people are trying to get me to, they're like, hey, do crypto, and I'm just like, yeah, I can tell what. Everybody's like, no, I was like that too. I did a poll. I was like, all right, listen, I'll stay open-minded. I did a poll. I was like, all right, let me know, guys. Should I do crypto? 75% of my supporters said no. I figured that, and I'm like, yeah, we'll stay away from that. We're gonna stick to the old school stuff. But yeah, one more question. Well, he already got a few questions in. We're gonna do somebody who hasn't asked any question yet.
Who hasn't asked a question?
Oh, you asked one?
Yeah.
Who hasn't already? Oh, over here.
So I know you were talking about like basically having franchises and stuff like that, but like on a more simple basis, or how can I say this? I mean, when can we expect like an official blueprint so the machine can be replicated?
So I'm gonna put out the blueprint to the machine that I'm working on now, my Mark 4.5 machine. I'll put that out when the machine is done. The only reason I haven't done it yet, because I built a few machines, is if somebody's going to replicate my work, I want them to stay safe. I've never been shocked by a machine, but that's truly the most dangerous part, the high voltages, right? It's the voltages. So for example, microwave ovens, people take them apart every year to get the transformers out, and a few hundred people every year die messing with those. And those are what power my machine, right? And so like, as long as everything is done up to code, the wires are done right, it's fine, just like how a microwave is fine for anybody to operate. But I don't want anybody to build it like how I have it built now, I just kind of have wires going over the ground. Because I'm in a state of research and development, right? I don't have time to like make it super neat, just have to change it next week, right? But so whenever I get the blueprints, I want the blueprints to be, this is how you do it safely, this is how you stay safe, all the operating procedures, and it's up to you to follow that. But I want it there because I wouldn't feel right knowing if somebody got hurt because I didn't guide somebody properly on how to build this, right? So I don't recommend anybody build it. But if you do, definitely learn from all my mistakes. Watch all my YouTube videos because I've had a few house fires, explosions, so there's things you don't have to go through. and yeah, the blueprints will be. I actually am going to be writing a book. And what I want to do is I want to put the blueprints in the book, so like when I can tell my whole story and have the blueprints. So that's what I'm thinking. But that, like I said, that will come when the machine is finished, and the machine is slated to be finished. I really would hope by the end of the summer. Yeah. So yeah, guys, thank you very much for the Q&A so much, and thank you all for showing up. What we're gonna do. I know we had a few more people show up, so there's a food truck over here, there's some lemonade right here, there's a cafe in there, restrooms in there too, and right here, this table, this is my natural deodorant brand, Jab Aroma, 100% natural deodorant that I make, works for 24 hours, 10% of the profits go to my machine, but we're gonna break out for an intermission for a little bit, and then we're gonna get ready to run this 1994 Pajero off of plastic diesel. So thank you all so much. Round of applause for Portland, baby.
Oh, time for a smoke. Alright, I'm going to upload a recorded video of this because I want to record it in a higher quality than what we have here. So when we go and watch the plastic diesel being run, make sure to come back for not the live stream, but a later upload in higher quality. Cheers.